It's Monday, 8th of September. This is your BizNews Briefing. I'm Alec Hogg. Cracking show for you. The CEO and founder, indeed, of 91, one of the biggest asset management companies in South Africa, has broken ranks. Cyril Ramaphosa's Zimbabwean land reform praise continues to pick up a lot of flack. Cape Town says it's addressing the N2 gauntlet. We're launching the Ricardo Portfolio, where any BizNews Premium member can participate from, well, 10 Rand a month. And then also coming up in this program, AI and Hollywood, Musk the trillionaire. The latest released on the Stock Exchange News Service this morning from Altvest, AVI and Metrofile, and a tailpiece to warm the cockles of any heart. But let's start off with that groundbreaking, watershed perhaps, announcement from 91's chief executive, Hendrik Toit. He posted it in a personal capacity on LinkedIn, but given the man's profile, what he says there is what his company intends. Also the fact that he founded the company. Let's have a listen.
It is time for all South Africans to rally against the criminality and corruption that is engulfing our society. Unfortunately, our government is too feeble and too infiltrated by criminals and thieves to save us. It is time for the citizens to stand up for law and order. As I finished reading Jeff Wicks's excellent book, The Shadow State, which systematically documents the heinous corruption in our failing health system, for which the whistleblower Babita Deokaran was assassinated, another murder was reported. Boa van Niekerk, a top insolvency lawyer, was executed in cold blood in his offices in Johannesburg. His sin was to pursue justice. Many people died for our democracy. We cannot let thieves and gangsters take over our beloved country. We cannot let criminals to get away with the murders of people like Boa and Babita while they rob the poor to enrich themselves.
We're hoping to get an interview with Hendrik Hendrik de Toit in the near future. And what a powerful statement that was. He's not the only one who's feeling gutful at the moment. In the NDB Sunday show, host Christine spoke with her guest, Ronaldo Gous, about what Ronaldo feels could be the last straw from Cyril Ramaphosa.
Ronaldo, meanwhile, there is outrage over President Cyril Ramaphosa going to Zimbabwe and praising their land reform program.
Oh, my moeder is gekoer. Okay. Let me try and be not the old Ronaldo, that got in trouble back in the day. Let me just say that I know that Neil always added names for politicians, and I've got my own for Ramaphosa. It is Squirrel Ramamampur, because it looks like he drinks a lot of mampur before he makes statements. Now, that is alleged, before the Hawks kicks down my door. What I want to say on that is, imagine for a second, you take the worst possible country as an example when you want to talk about land reform. Now, it is quite clear that the fast-track land reform that was implemented by Robert Mugabe was a complete and utter failure for Zimbabwe. In actual fact, it took a country that was on the up and up with the agricultural sector and turning them from a bread basket of South Africa to the basket case of South Africa. And that happened over the course of 5 to 6 years because of these fast-track land reform policies, where thousands of farmers' lands were taken away from them And now people are saying, and what gets to me with regards to this is Cyril Ramaphosa praised what Zimbabwe did. Now, don't get confused, because a lot of people are saying you are misunderstanding what he was talking about. Is he's praising them rebuilding the agricultural sector? No. In his speech, you can clearly hear that he is saying that this was necessary to deal with the decolonization of Zimbabwe. So in essence, the president of South Africa has praised Zimbabwe for causing record inflation in a country where it reached the point where violence and human rights abuses was an everyday occurrence. This is what Cyril Ramaphosa is praising. The decline in agricultural production leading to starvation. This is what Cyril Ramaphosa is praising. Then the economic collapse, 40% retraction in the economy. This is what Cyril Ramaphosa is praising. Job losses, just in the agricultural sector alone. That fast-track land reform policy that Cyril Ramaphosa is praising cost 300 to 500,000 jobs. And this is what Cyril Ramaphosa is praising. Then, of course, they talk about the social inequality in the country and how it needed to redress the issues of the past. Well, please explain to me, for the first 15 years after that policy that Cyril is praising, how did it benefit Zimbabwe? It didn't. It caused a massive economic retraction. It caused human rights violations and abuses. It caused land being stolen. It caused Zimbabwe to go into starvation. And ultimately, who are the beneficiaries of this land reform? Well, 40% of the land went to ZANU-PF loyalists. Now, I'm assuming the reason that Cyril Ramaphosa is praising this is because, hey, the ANC cadres have got to eat and they're looking forward to getting their parcels of land, because who's not going to benefit if this had to be implemented in South Africa? The poorest of the poor, the people that are in actual fact landless. Those individuals won't benefit of this. It'll be, once again, the connected few that will benefit, whilst the majority of people that have never had land, they aren't the ones that will be getting it.
It's an interesting time as well that's coming up as Parliament reconvenes today. There is a motion of no confidence set against Cyril Ramaphosa, which will come in for the next little while. And we could expect some very interesting developments there. Up to now, his partner, or the ANC's partner in the Government of National Unity, the Democratic Alliance, has been steadfast in its support, but with the business sector taking fright from what Ramaphosa was saying in Zimbabwe, one wonders whether that will continue into the future. As Ronaldo said to Chris over the weekend, grab the popcorn. This is going to be interesting. Well, also interesting is the story that is happening in the Western Cape, and in particular, alongside the N2 as you come out of the Cape Town International Airport. Well, leaving the airport, if you turn right towards Cape Town, all seems to be well. But for those who are turning left, going towards Somerset West and then into the hinterland, it's anything but. There have been reports of murders, of bricks being thrown or concrete being thrown from the side of the road, of widespread criminality being imposed on motorists there, including tourists, a number of whom have died. The Cape Town City Council, however, is under a lot of pressure. A recent interview that we had on the subject with Wayne Kutzer, who's the chief executive of the Vergelegen Wine Estate, which hosts many tourists, that has got more than 160,000 views at an average of 8 minutes per view. So lots of people watching and highly engaged. I spoke earlier this morning to JP Smith. He is the man responsible in the Cape Town Metro for crime and security. He's been a city councillor for a quarter of a century. He went in 2000. Everybody knows him as JP, and if anybody can fix this, well, he's probably the man. In the conversation, which is up on BizNews TV, he explains the frustrations and the fact that Cape Town is no longer accepting that they can't do things They simply have to. But here's a clip from our conversation this morning.
A big part of the challenge at the moment is the state of the boundary fences. The road reserve has fences at the back, and those are severely vandalized. And so turnoffs at the R300 and several other points allow for ready access to the freeway. Way too many people moving onto the freeway to effectively control through enforcement. And this is a problem that myself and the city has been fighting with national government about, because these are national roads for more than a decade. It's at the point now where Mayor Hill Lewis is working and talking to the Premier about using, again, city funding to spend an enormous amount of money to replace those walls with substantial concrete barrier walls to prevent incursion into the road and to minimize the risk. Secondly, is that this should be a lead agency issue for SAPS. We are not responsible for crime prevention, essentially. This is something SAPS should be taking the lead on, and it frustrates me a bit to the extent that that's not happening. That said, I am definitely not going to hide behind other people's responsibilities. We never do. And so on the N2, R300, N7, N1, we have a substantial additional daily deployment now. We've got 30 to 40 staff every day, depending on the requirements and whatever else is happening. That's not even including the additional deployments on Baden-Powell and around Malibongwe. And then these have been moved to a 24-hour shift deployment now. So we used to do just morning and afternoon peaks. We now have a 24-hour deployment that we've moved for. And on Wednesday, when we launch our 5 officers per ward, we will also be launching 44 extra officers that we've been working on training and developing and recruiting for the last 3 years. So this is not something we decided to do in response to an interview or to a recent crisis. We've been preparing for these additional staff deployments for some time. 44 extra officers, 40 constables and 4 sergeants will hit the road on Wednesday. So we've been trying to bolster the presence of police a lot. And if I can tell you, for instance, at the moment, that allows us to assist 1,200 vehicles in 3 months. And the last 3 months, around 400 vehicles a month. It's actually 300 in June, around 300 in July, and just under 600 in August, of vehicles that break down or become stationary, where we rush to their aid to prevent them from becoming statistics. And unfortunately, that is not an infallible process. So we've had 1 or 2 notable failures, and where we have not gotten to them in time, sometimes the criminals have. But we are really trying everything from our side to bolster that.
There were reports of a stabbing yesterday. So they've got their hands full. But it sounds a little like what happened with when Jordan Hill Lewis came into the mayor's office after the 2019 local elections, and he said, "I'm not going to accept this load shedding. There is a little opening in the door. I'm going to kick it down." And it looks like a similar situation is now happening on the crime front. 750 new Metro officers in Cape Town, crime fighters, start on Wednesday. Good news indeed.
Cody from Paul has sold multiple vehicles to We Buy Cars. Suspicious? I think so.
Is that a crime?
No. Where are you getting the cars?
I buy them and I sell them at the spot like a normal person.
Okay.
No, man, I'm just an accounting student. I know a good deal when I see one.
That's Excel meant. What's more stressful, tax season or selling a car at We Buy Cars?
Tax season, obviously.
We Buy Cars, the easiest way to sell your car by far.
Well, those who've been following the BizNews story will recall that just over 10 years ago, we launched a portfolio called the Web Trader Portfolio with an investment of $200,000 by proving the point that being in the market is more important than trying to trade it. In other words, invest for the long term, following Warren Buffett's principles. That portfolio is now worth over $1 million, taken in Rand terms, gone from just over 2 million Rand to 18.5 million Rand today. So it shows it can be done by just ordinary folk like us. We have had the advantage of looking at another opportunity. I had a call from my friend Ricardo, who said, I've never invested in shares before. I'd like to invest on the stock market. How do I go about doing it? Many members of the BizNews tribe ask the same questions fairly regularly. So at the end of this month, we are launching what we call the Ricardo Portfolio. In our update on BizNews on Friday, my colleague Bronwyn Nielsen and I spoke about various things, and I also added what we'd be doing on the new Ricardo Portfolio. Shift were starting to offer shares in their platform, and so we thought it was a good idea to have an exponential portfolio for Shift. Month one, excellent. Month two, the market collapsed. So we went from a portfolio with real money this time, because we put in BizNews money, our own some of our own resources, and we were down 50% in the first year, 50%. And I'm sure there were a lot of people on who had followed us in that portfolio said, "Oh damn, why are we following these fools?" But today it's doubled from where we started, and that's not even 4 years in. And the story really is, it's not timing in the market, because your timing couldn't have been worse. It's time in the market. And then the Ricardo portfolio, which kicks off at the beginning of next month, is going to be done through no sponsorship this time, by the way. But it's going to be done on Easy Equities. And the reason for that is that Easy Equities has a platform where you can put 10 Rand a month in if you want to, or 100 Rand a month, or 1,000 Rand a month. And I love that. We are going to be taking our company. We've set up a stockbroking account for a holding company, Aurelius Media, or Marcus Aurelius Media. And that 10,000 Rand a month will then be invested through Easy Equities in a proportionate basis, because they have fractional shares there. And we would then invite our community to mirror that portfolio if they want to, or to take some of the investments that we're making there. But the critical thing here is it's a monthly. Now, the big problem, as you well know, in investing is when you put the money in, because the timing is, nobody knows the timing. Look at that Shift portfolio example. But here, they used to have a thing with unit trusts, which they call Rand cost averaging. And the concept is the same. Every month you put a certain amount in, and if the stocks that you invested in fall, that means you buy more of that company. You'll get more shares for the same amount of money. And we want our community to participate on as much as they, or as little as they can afford. But every month they will come along to the webinar. It's for premium members only. There has to be an exchange of value. So and also I just felt if we did it free to air, you don't want to get into this pump and dump kind of scenario where people are waiting, and then we've seen it. I've seen it in the past where people were actually lining up to get the newsletter we were producing so that they can quickly go and buy the shares because they knew it would go up because there were so many people following it. We don't want that. We want a situation where we do have people with long-term intentions, long-term investments, and over the every month they'll come to the premium webinar, which we've held now for 11 years, and that webinar we update on the performance of the companies that are held in the portfolio and reiterate that story of it is time in the market, not trying to time it, and not trading, but finding the stocks that you can own forever. That's Warren Buffett's approach, by the way. He says, what is the average time to own a stock? And his response to that is forever. So do your homework, find a company that you would like to be a part owner of, keep investing in it forever, and, well, you will be rewarded, as we have shown in the WebTrader portfolio and more recently in the Shift portfolio. That one is just under 4 years old now, and it has doubled in value. Okay, moving on to some other interesting information, news for the day. This one comes from our partners at Bloomberg, where they tell us that AI, artificial intelligence, will have a critical impact on Hollywood.
When you go into the streaming world, you're talking about a platform where it's all you can eat. It's consumption. There's no limit. You can watch the same show as many times as you want, unlike the good old days of having to pay for each view unless you bought the physical copy. So with the talent in the Hollywood community, the discussions are about how do we reward the talent and the creative community for that all-you-can-eat model. And so there have been some creative models that have developed over the years and continue to evolve on how to keep creators happy while the streaming giants and other content distributors continue to thrive.
Well, speaking of creators and talent, we were just having a really interesting conversation with Kelly Monahan of Upwork about AI-generated content. And when it comes to potential discussions about potential deals, how much of a part of that conversation is AI?
AI is critical. It is going to be a critical part of the future of Hollywood and content. I think the important thing, and even when we talk about private equity clients who speak with us about the landscape, the important thing to understand is you have to navigate an existing system in Hollywood that are guilds, talent agreements, license agreements, and understand how those merge with AI and AI-driven content. And so if you're not very smart and particular about understanding those, you're going to find yourself on the wrong side of the law.
Fascinating insights. And now let's find out about Trillionaire, the first trillionaire, individual trillionaire, which could very well be Elon Musk.
Well, look, I think there's two things going on. Musk is saying, look, I want to be wildly incentivized if I do great things for shareholders. And I think shareholders, I think the board is saying, okay, fair enough. We're going to have to set awfully high standards. And that's not just going to be performance standards for selling more cars, for getting full self-driving and really showing the promise of AI and Tesla. And he's also going to have to really make the humanoid robot proposition real. I think if he does those things, he deserves a big pay package. But you touched on something else. The board clearly wants to see him focused on Tesla, and that probably means less politics, less focus on some of the other properties that are already doing extraordinarily well. So you can see why the board constructed it as they did. Let's see if shareholders support it. I have a hunch they will. And the big question is, it's going to be game on for Tesla. Can he hit these wildly audacious goals?
Within the operational goals, there is the target to produce 1 million humanoid Optimus robots. There is to build the robotaxi fleet to 1 million vehicles. But there is still a goal in there, Steve, to produce and sell and deliver 20 million electric vehicles to consumers. In other words, Tesla's historic bread and butter. That seems to contradict like the big picture vision for AI. You know, in a world where Tesla operates a proprietary ride-hailing app, he's still being asked to deliver tens of millions of vehicles directly to the consumer.
And you put your finger on the linchpin here, as always. What I love about this is what I suspect, and I don't know, but what I suspect Elon wants is an audacious big target, because that's what gets his adrenaline going. Great. What I think the board is pushing for is, hey, don't forget, you've got to sell a lot of electric and autonomous vehicles, and competition's coming. So let's come back to the real world for a minute.
It's fascinating. Elon Musk shooting for the stars. Exponentiality. It's something that a lot of people don't kind of get, but I can tell you what, Elon gets it, and so do a lot of his friends who are in Silicon Valley. So do Altvest, a small company that's listed on the AltX on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Today, Altvest, which is chaired by Stafford Marcy and run by Warren Wheatley, announced that it is going to raise, or rather, it intends raising a total of $210 million over the next little while, which it will then invest straight into Bitcoin. It's kicking off by selling 1 million shares at 11 Rand each. And when it gets that money in, it will be using that to buy Bitcoin as well. It's bought its first Bitcoin already. It's changing its name to the Africa Bitcoin Corp. Interesting to see what happens next on that one. a more stable business. In fact, this is where Rob Hersov and his family's fortunes were made more recently, originally mining, but then the Anglo-Val group was split into mining, which went with the Menels, and industry, which went with the Hersovs. Well, the company that houses those industrial assets, AVI Limited, had a sensible year, if you could put it that way. In the 12 months to the end of June, operating profit was up nicely, revenue grew 16%, dividends were raised, and that included a special dividend. However, the company says there is a particularly challenging market that they're having to deal with, so don't bank next year's profit yet. And also on the Stock Exchange News Service this morning, as we do report this to you in the BizNews Briefing, we pick up the very latest news from what is called Sense, or the Stock Exchange News Service. Metrofile, who are having a completely different year to that of AVI. There, the dividend has been passed. They're having tough times in the rest of Africa, or outside of Africa, outside of South Africa operations. Rest of Africa operating profit down 73%. Their Middle East operation lost 5 million rand. So they kind of held steady locally, but it was desperate times outside of South Africa, with the Kenyan investment having to be written down or written off by 31 million rand. Well, let's get on to a little bit of happy news to close with you for you today. And here we have one of the nicest tailpieces, and very appropriately named, that I've seen in a while.
Warning, this might be the most unhinged dog park on the internet.
Yo, it's Chuck and Barry.
Today, we're at the dog park. Buckle up, it's total chaos.
I ran 8 steps today. Honestly, I blacked out. So worth it.
Did anyone ever tell the pug he sounds like a broken air conditioner? Bro needs a filter change.
Out of all dogs, the bull mastiff called me skinny. Nah, I'm a rocket with legs. You don't pet me, you launch me.
I've mapped the entire park in my head. Exit routes, ball trajectories, squirrel hotspots. My IQ is over 150, but I round down so the Labradors don't feel bad.
Hey, I'm good boy. Last name is Hungry Again.
Wait, is that actually my name?
Peso 3 kilos, pero emocionalmente soy un pastor alemán con espresso. Ahora voy a ver si puedo pelearme con el Doberman.
A Chihuahua tried to pick a fight with me today. I don't even know where he is now. We call him G-Spot because he's so small you'll never find him.
Day 12 of trying to win the Bernese. He finally sniffed me. I said yes. We're honeymooning in the backyard.
All I know is every stick in this park is legally mine. And every shoe.
That's all for today. Now we go eat grass until you puke.
And follow us at @WeAreGoodPets for more. See you there, amigos.
Oh, great. Well, if that didn't make you laugh, I don't know what will. This has been your briefing. Until tomorrow, cheerio.